I think I'll read back a little bit. For one thing, I needed to improve something last time. It just didn't sound very good, so I'm going to try it again here. Okay. A voice, not knowing it was being broadcast over CB, said in Arabic, I haven't given up the power of Allah to change minds. Why else would Allah place so much emphasis on being a jihadi of the pen as well as sword? We failed at changing the objectionable thing with our hands. I haven't given up on trying to change the objectionable thing with the tongue. Okay, so we underestimated his weaponry. Let's concentrate on the words again. Let's concentrate with the tongue. Muhammad, may Allah pray on him and give him blessing, said, quote, the ink of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr, unquote. Let's keep it that way from now on. When that saying of Muhammad about scholar ink being better than martyr blood registered in the mind of the Muslim who came charging out of the SUV and was first to be shot by Daniel, when the saying of Muhammad about charging out the SUV shot Daniel. When the saying of Muhammad about a scholar ink being better than martyr blood registered in the mind of the Muslim who came charging out of the SUV and was the first to be shot by Daniel, the wounded Muslim gasped out in pain-delivered English, the ink... I'll read this one more time. When the saying of Muhammad about scholar ink being better than martyr blood registered in the mind of the Muslim who came charging out of the SUV and was the first to be shot by Daniel, the wounded Muslim gasped out in pain-delivered English, the ink of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr? The ink of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr? Yes, brother. Well, now you tell me, gasped the very perturbed Muslim due to being shot and almost martyred. Daniel and Sally laughed, hoping his dispatcher, Desmond, heard it. But his dispatcher, instead, was too busy hearing himself preach the value of being on time. When Daniel thought Desmond hung up, Daniel looked at Sally and said, you know, sometimes I think maybe I should let the Muslims saw my head off. Sally laughed. Who are you talking to? Asked Desmond. Is it a crime to think out loud? Asked Daniel. Desmond hung up. The leading voice from the Kenworth continued in Arabic with, we need to put more thought into our attack on him with our words. Get the computer ready. Another voice then said nervously in Arabic, we failed in hand and tongue so far, brothers, leaving only our heart. According to Muhammad, may Allah pray on him and give him blessing. If we fail in both hand and tongue when trying to change the thing that is objectionable, we are then left with only our heart, which to Muhammad, may Allah pray on him and give him blessing, means we then have the weakest form of faith. The weakest form of faith, brothers. Another voice then jumped in and asked, really? Does that mean quadriplegics are atheists? They have the weakest form of faith since they can't change anything with their hand, do they not? And they can still talk. Well, they can still talk and get someone to change something objectionable, shouted a voice. Suddenly one said in English, what if one is around to help them? What if no one is around to help them change the objectionable? Are they then atheists, being that would be the weakest form of faith? Shut up, was heard over the CB in English. The voice shouted, shut up, and then said in Arabic, you are starting to ask questions like a kafir pig. Are you out of Islam? As the sound of arguing in Arabic English began to be heard, Daniel and Sally looked at each other. Daniel then said into the CB mic, sounds like someone has been watching the videos of Christian Prince 3. You keep that up with that kind of questioning, you might join me in my crusade. Shut up, kafir swine, shouted a voice over the CB in English. Another voice said in English over the CB, Daniel Kobashi, we have seen all of your videos. They don't hurt the faith in Islam at all. Really? Asked Daniel. So you are out trying to hunt me down and kill me just for the heck of it? There was silence. Daniel then said, Ever heard the expression, you aren't over your target if you aren't taking flak? You know I have Islam in my crosshairs now. The voice ignored Daniel's expression and said, You failed terribly in spreading confusion on Islam by bringing in your stupid and naive church clerical logic. A simple comparison is so difficult for your dumb brains to understand. Daniel looked at Sally and said, They aren't as friendly now. Well, we did send 2 of them to 72-mile-wide virgin patooties. 72-mile-wide virgin patooties. I guess that would make them hate us more. Daniel then said, I was wondering when you'd resort to a personal attack when you couldn't defend Islam from the questions I provided. But do you think personal attack helps your argument? By the way, I have a question for you that maybe you can answer. According to the Quran, the Bible is not my book, but is Allah's book. What do you think about that? Remember, O Abdullahs, like you said earlier this day, the pen of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr. Daniel took his hand off the button and said to Sally, That should get them peaceful for a while. A voice shouted over the CB, You look like a sodomized retard mutant dwarf Christian of the highest order in your videos. Oh, that is just so hurtful to me, laughed Daniel. But if I do look like that, what does that have to do with the question I asked? Oh, that's right, nothing. The voice then shouted, Your Bible is full of hatred, violence, and porn. Lot had sex with his daughters, it says, and the Bible promotes terrorism. I would show you references endlessly from your book, aka the Bible. Get a life. Islam is growing daily, whether with us or without us. What are you going to do? What you gonna do, boy? With a fucking Zionist ass licker. By the way, Christian Prince 3 was like Christian Prince before him, getting paid for telling lies to dumb fucks like you. Get a life and study Islam. Daniel turned to Sally and said, They're scraping the bottom of the barrel when resorting to ad hominem. When someone resorts to personal attack, it usually proves he lost the debate. Daniel picked up the CB mic and said, The Bible is all... It said, the Bible is all of that, you say. Strange. Did you know that the Bible is the book that makes people the book, and according to the Quran, is confirmed by the Quran? As a matter of fact, Quran 568 tells Christians they have no ground to stand upon unless they stand firm upon the Injil, Gospel. And Quran 1094 tells Muslims, if they are in doubt about the Quran, to go to those who have read the before scriptures, that is the Holy Bible again. Don't you find that amazing when you think the Bible is so damn corrupted? By the way, how is the Torah that the Quran says is Allah's book? Yeah, that the Quran says is Allah's book. Well, how is the Torah? Yeah, that the Quran says is Allah's book. Well, how is the Torah corrupted when it reports a case of incest between Lot and his daughters? When the Torah, Allah's book, reports a case of rape or incest, does that mean the Torah is for rape and incest? If so, how? And how does that mean the Torah is not as the Quran has it as? Allah's book. How? There was silence, making Daniel smile. An angry voice then said in a thick Arabic accent over the CB, Hypothetically speaking, of course, you are criticizing Quran for nothing, and you don't know even what this verse talking about. What this verse talking about Torah and incest. Try to understand the meaning of verses first. Jews and Christians are the worst quoted in Quran. Your book has been faked many times. Comparing it with Noble Quran, it is protected. No one can change, and no one will in the future. Islam is win. Islam is going to ravage the whole world, and you will see it. Daniel looked at Sally and said, "Hey, did you hear that? He said Islam is going to ravage the whole world." He must have forgotten his takia, line for Allah. Daniel then said, Islam has been threatening to ravage the whole world since Mo realized he could Daniel then said, Islam has been threatening to ravage the whole world since Mo realized he could get ignorant, horny men using their penises to kill for him. What does that say about a god, in this case Allah, who needs to promise sex for the horny to kill for him? Does that sound like a god you can truly trust? Boy, I sure can. There was silence over the CB, followed by murmuring in Arabic and Daniel could not understand. Daniel then said, Again, did you know that the Bible isn't my book, but that according to the Quran is Allah's words? Not only does the Quran greatly infer the Bible is Allah's words, it tells me, a Christian version of the people of the book, that I have no ground to stand upon unless I stand firm upon the Torah and Injil, and tells you, a Muslim, to come to me for my reading the Before Scriptures Bible if you're in doubt about the Quran. See Quran 1094. I mean, O slaves of Allah, if the Bible is not the book that makes people the book, then what, pray tell, is the book the Quran says it confirms? What is it? Daniel kept the mic on to his CB as he looked over at Sally and said, I'd love to ask that question. That question is always ignored by Muslims. No doubt they will ignore it here as well. Some of the tires of Daniel's truck started sounding different from the chains, making Daniel concerned. He prayed that the tires would hold up. I'm still waiting for you to tell me what the book is that makes people the book, if it's not the Bible. Said Daniel with a smile. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. There was more silence. Daniel then said to Sally with the CB on so the Muslims could hear it, saying, they'll probably try to change the subject now. This is about time. This is about the time they usually do it, when skunked. They'll probably try to say the Quran is more than a book of spirituality, but is a book of scientific miracles as well. Daniel's triumphant feeling of smashing Islam over the CB was short-lived when a Muslim voice said over the CB, Your boundless soul-wittedness is quite apparent, my friend. Quran says that ants and bees are female. Quran is full of scientific miracles, for sure, and every ant and bee you see is a female. That is a scientific miracle, and you can't say otherwise. But that's not original for the Quran to say that, said Daniel. The book, well, the Bible, says ants are female when it says in Proverbs, consider her ways. Guess what? Proverbs came out way before the clear signs Quran, so Muhammad just got the idea from a book, the Bible, that is inspired by God. Suddenly, Daniel thought about ants and remembered something controversial in the Quran about ants that sounded incredibly stupid. Daniel smiled. That sounded incredibly. Daniel smiled and said as he looked down the road, Ants. Ants? Asked Sally. Ants, said Daniel. If I'm not mistaken, the clear signs handed down has Solomon not only talking to ants, but understanding them through hearing them. Being the case, I have just got to hear what these slaves of Allah think about the clear signs saying such a thing.